Lewis.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair, and I'll certainly stick to your 5 minutes and not be wittering on. Firstly, thank you to the committee for hearing this application. It is by far the biggest investment in the Wallasey ward for more than 30 years, some £57 million, I think, at the last count, on a school that is very much in need of that work. And we were delighted when it was announced in 2023 that the then government agreed to the bid by the school to support the redevelopment of the site. There has been some comment in the report and by the planning officer regarding the local green space designation. We saw that on some of the slides. The Wallaca Fields were nominated by myself and Councillor Rennie for assessment as part of the local plan to be added as a local green space to give it protection from the day-to-day threat of housing development on our remaining green spaces in the ward. We do believe that the proposal to build a school on part of the local green space on those fields is indeed a very special circumstance and warrants the overriding of that designation to provide the new school on that former green space or part of it. The impact we've heard about the planning restrictions and the planning framework that we have to work on, but I think also we need to focus on the benefits this application will have to the wider community, not least the transformation of boys' education in Wallasey. We've had, as a council, we've had previous reports to the relevant committee that identifies that boys' attainment in the Wallasey constituency is below that of the neighbouring Birkenhead, Wirral South and Wirral West constituencies at the time, and that we need to address that. And this application goes some way to improving the learning opportunities for boys in the Wallasey constituency, with a view to increasing the enrolment to up to 1,500 students for this site. The other community benefits to the immediate area, as Councillor Hall has referred, we've had for years now problems with parking on Mosslands Drive. There's very little off-road parking on Mosslands Drive, either for the school or for the residents who live there, and particularly at weekends when the fields are being played, when there are players on the fields, and there is significant parking problems in the area. So the application addresses that by providing additional parking spaces on site for the school, both during the week and for the local community to use at weekends. We've also had reference to the current condition of the Wallaca playing fields. Very often they are unusable because they are flooded, because the drainage hasn't been maintained. It's part of the floodplain, as we know. That's one of the reasons why two of the fields on the other side of the railway line that used to be Mosslands had to be abandoned because they could no longer be maintained. This proposal deals with that by improving the condition of the remaining football fields so that they can be used all year round, almost all year round, providing additional playing facilities that are currently not available to the community. We've also had reference in the report to the overall improvement in the sports provision through the community use agreement. I'm very grateful that the school has agreed to make their vastly improved facilities available to the community, both at weekends and evenings. Again, in an area where we don't have a leisure centre, that will be of much benefit to the local community. A reference has been made to the additional tree planting. There is also reference to some of the trees that have been planted, or some of the whips that have been planted by the local tree planting group. I would ask the applicant if they would consider increasing that tree cover. Item 8.2.42 in the report references that particular site. If we could reflect that in some additional tree planting as part of the programme, I think that would help in terms of the community who have undertaken that work so far. We are particularly pleased that thanks to the intervention of Elizabeth Hartley and James Backhouse, the application now includes a completely rebuilt football pavilion. Those who were on the council committee 8 years ago know that we visited Wallaca. I think Councillor Stewart was on that visit. We visited Wallaca Football Pavilion to see the fairly poor state it was in then. 8 years later, it's in an even worse condition. And so we're very grateful that, again, the application addresses that point by providing a brand new pavilion on site for the Wallaca playing fields. Finally, in terms of community benefits, we have the additional £100,000 that has been secured, presumably under a 106 agreement, for the play areas at Wallaca play area, as has been mentioned in the report, but also the Parks and Countryside Service have confirmed that some of that money will also be used for play area equipment in Harrison Park as well. So the wider community does benefit in two areas of play in the Wallasey ward. That's it in terms of community benefits that I think will be valued by the wider community as well as the school community. And again, we thank the applicant for making those benefits available to the Wallasey area. I'd like to thank Adrian Whiteley, the head teacher, for engaging with the ward councillors at a very early stage so we could get some of these issues addressed and for keeping in contact with us throughout the process. Also thank both Paul Sator for his intervention at a fairly early stage when Adrian first contacted us, and also Elizabeth Hartley, the Director of Children's Services, and James Backhouse as well, for their work on behalf of the authority and to make sure that we are meeting the deadlines of the DFE. But overall, very, very supportive of the application. I think that is recognised by the fact we had, I think it was three people were objecting to the application. I believe they may now have withdrawn their applications. But for an application of this size and scale, to only have 3 objections is fairly indicative, really, of the importance this application has on that community and how it's recognised by that community. That's all, Chair, but happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you.